Good morning, Miss Hudson's class. We're going to continue with the one and only Bob. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Seems like forgiving humans is one of those doggy things we're all supposed to do. It's written in our canine souls. Well, somehow I didn't get the memo. The one that apparently went out to every other dog on the planet about forgiveness. Why should I forgive the humans who tossed me and my siblings out into the night? When you forgive, you lose your anger. And when you lose your anger, you get weak. And when you're weak, you can hurt all over. By the time we reached the park, the sky was definitely in a bad mood. Gray clouds galloping like panicked horses. The nervous scent of rain on the way. The kind that makes you antsy in your own skin. When we get near the employee entrance, I hop into Julia's backpack like always. We enter through the special gate where George shows his ID, checks in, and says hi to the staff. Pet dogs aren't allowed at the park, Natch. Foxes, wolves, jackals. My dog cousins, they are. But in my opinion, even though they're technically part of my extended family, they're nothing like dogs. Only dogs have perfected the art of human watching. The smartest thing we ever did was figure out how important the human gaze is. So often, when we follow our owner's eyes, we're rewarded with something amazing. A smelly sock, a glazed donut that has fallen on a smelly sock. We follow every blink, every sidelong glance. We see it, whatever it is, before humans do. We understand before they do. And if there's a glazed donut involved, we eat it before they do. In the mid-morning, it's mid-morning, still pretty early. There aren't many visitors around yet. We got a meeting in 20, George tells a couple workers, Hank and Sonia, who groan, just a quick one, going over contingency plans one last time in case there's any flooding. During the last hurricane, a small part of the park flooded, mostly near Reptileville. George helped move the cages. He came home smelling like cottonmouth and copperheads. It was all I could do not to barf. Weather Service just issued a tornado watch, Hank said. I thought we were having a hurricane, Julia said. We are. Gus, but sometimes tornadoes are spawned during hurricanes, George explained. Julia frowned. But a watch means maybe, not for sure, right? Yeah, but I want you to head home, just in case, said George. Please, Dad, just 10 minutes, Julia said. She's using that special voice she reserves for moments when she really, really wants something from her parents. I guess kids manipulate their moms and dads the same way dogs manipulate humans. I don't know, George begins. I promised Bob. I figured that was my cue to pop my head out and look adorable, so I did. Hey, Bob, says Hank. Sonia reaches over and scratches my ears. I'm pretty popular around the park. I give George my best puppy dog eyes and he caves. 10 minutes tops, he says. Meet me back here. Puppy eyes. Works every time. Here's how I figure puppy eyes got their start. Cave humans were sitting around the fire, wearing mammoth fur and grunting about how there was nothing on TV because TV hadn't been invented yet, and some wily wolf thought, whoa, they've got leftover mammoth meat. And he probably whimpered and cowered and did a tummy display and looked pathetic enough that Mr. Ogg finally tossed him a bone. And soon enough, a few zillion years later, voila, man's best friend. After all that time, there's a thing like a magnetic attraction between dogs and humans. We've studied them for so long, we can read every twitch and sigh. Suppose it was easier than chasing down mammoths. And I get it. I do. The behind-the-ear scratch, the food in the fancy bowl, the bed by the fireplace. Gotta admit that Julia's pretty fun to hang out with. And I'm grateful, really I am, that her family took me in. Still, I don't need them. You need someone, eventually they let you down. And you end up feeling like a real doofus. As Julia walks, I sneak peeks out of her backpack like I always do. We pass the Murkeet family, poking out from their den holes, like a whack-a-mole game they used to have at Mac's Mall. I see the flashy flamingos with their one-legged balancing act, and the terrifyingly beautiful tigers. Even their cute cubs give me the willies. Families, I've noticed, take a lot of different shapes. Jim and Joe, the penguins, adopted an abandoned egg, and they are the sweetest doting parents you ever saw. I see it with humans in the park, too. Families of all shapes and sizes and colors and genders, and yep, they all seem to do just fine. We rounded a corner past Sea Otter Alley. Oliver and Olivia were floating calmly on their backs, holding each other's paws. It's pretty adorable, I have to admit. But me, I don't need the trouble that comes with a family. Babies puking, toddlers whining, spouses nagging. Talk about a design flaw. The park's pretty big, lots of twisty paths and fascinating smells. All the parts have names. Here's the African Aviary, the Outback, Penguin Cove, Lemurland. It's like puzzle pieces of the world. Little Africa there, little Asia there. Dogs, you can find us pretty much everywhere. Our territory is Earth. As long as we're hooked up with humans, that is. Along the shady paths, volunteer guides will answer your questions. They'll tell you about how animals used to roam in one part of the world or another until things changed. Things change. That's one thing I figured out. Don't ever assume a little patch of the planet belongs to you. Things change. Boxes go flying. On our way, we always stop at the wolf habitat. Julia loves wolves, probably because they remind her of me. You have to look hard, maybe squint a little, but if you try, you can catch a hint of my inner wolf. It's in the eyes mostly, also in my distinguished profile. I dream I'm a wolf sometimes, and when I wake up, I'm panting, my fur is on alert, and I feel, yeah, the world could hurt me, but I could hurt the world right back even harder. Like there's a dangerous, hard part of me chained inside, struggling to go free and just, I don't know, get even. Then I go see what's for breakfast. There's a gray wolf in the park who makes me a little jittery. Jittery as in I sometimes worry he might like to eat me. His name is Camus, and we struck up a conversation when a mutual acquaintance of ours, a mockingbird called Mitch, introduced us one day. Like Nutwit, Mitch likes to taunt me because I'm domesticated. Gives me a lot of grief about how free he is soaring stringless over the whole town. I'm not the only one who's pampered, I said one day. I mean, look at Camus. He's not exactly running wild. As soon as the words were out of my mouth, I regretted them. And when I look at Camus, I could kill you with one quick bite expression. I really regret them. In any case, I said, moving the subject along, I've lived wild. It ain't a picnic for a dog. What was it like? Camus asked. He moved closer to the edge of his domain. He had a strange odor, intense and scary, and a little bit intoxicating. Well, I was just a pup, abandoned by the side of the highway. Camus was listening intently. Must have been tough. All I could think of was food, water. I didn't like the catch in my voice. Owl got me. Those guys are fierce, Camus said. Can't hear them coming. I know, right? I relaxed a little. I hate owls, said Mitch. Hate them with a passion. They eat birds, you know. So do wolves, said Camus, giving Mitch a meaningful look. So you were wild once, I asked Camus. Never. Born and raised in captivity. Suzu over there. She was. She told us stories that would curl your fur. Honestly, it's nice to have a roof over my head. It's tough out there, man. Really tough. I suppose, said Camus. I looked at him for the first time, wondered if I really did have any wolf in me. He was a majestic animal with teeth that could shred a tree trunk. I'm also majestic, but more portable, with teeth that could mangle a pencil with enough time and effort. Hey, Bob, Mitch said. Do dogs howl the way wolves do? Of course we do. So let's hear something. A duet, maybe. He fluttered his wings, revealing startling patches of white. Do you know Talk to the Animals? They play that on the carousel. Go away, Mitch, said Camus, with just the right amount of menace in his voice. Come on, just a little howling. Pretend there's a moon. Pretend you're free. Pretend. Camus growled, and so did I. His was pretty impressive. Guttural, deep. It spoke of death and dismemberment and all kinds of unpleasant bird nightmares. I growled too. It spoke of me being mildly peeved. Still, Mitch got the message. He disappeared, a blur of wings. Actually, I've never howled at the moon, I admitted. Me either, said Camus. I'd feel kind of silly doing it here. We're almost to my favorite spot in the park. The great thing for me is that one corner of Gorilla World juts up against Elephant Odyssey, the area where Ruby lives. A low stone wall separates the two spaces, and there's a moat on the elephant side. The sections connect like two slices of pie, and my secret spot is right at the center, where I can hang out with my crew. Ivan and Ruby both have access to indoor habitats, which is great when the weather isn't cooperating. The indoor space for gorillas isn't bad. I call it the Gorilla Villa. It has tons of ropes, hammocks, and branches to climb. Humans watch through a thick wall of glass while the young gorillas run around like kids at recess. But whenever Julie and I visit, we can almost always find Ivan and Ruby outside. We trudge up a little rise, though it isn't much of a hill. We live in a pretty flat part of the world. From there, I can see just about anything. The park, the parking lot, the creek. Far below that, every now and then, I can even catch a glimpse of the ocean. My secret place is a little hard to get to. Right near the keeper's shed, nicely hidden by trees and bushes. Under a big magnolia tree, there's a bench shaped like a gorilla holding out his arms. Julia likes to sit there and draw. Sometimes she does her homework, which smells like frustration with a hint of eraser. Whenever I visit, Julia props me up on the stone wall that separates Ruby's world from Ivan's. Visitors can't see me, and the keepers pretend not to. If they caught any other dog in here, he would be out in a heartbeat. But Ivan and Ruby and I have a history. I make them happy. I'm what you call enrichment. At the park, they try to keep the animals engaged with surprises and challenges and changes in their environment. That's what enrichment is all about. The gorillas get watermelons to demolish, and boxes to hide in, and markers for drawing. The elephants get sprinklers and flavored water and elephant-sized rubber balls. Not exactly like a day in a real jungle, of course, but the keepers try as hard as they can to make life interesting. For Ivan and Ruby, I'm the ultimate enrichment. I'm their best pal. Julia takes me out of my backpack and settles onto the stone wall. It's my favorite place on the planet, because it means I can see Ivan and Ruby. But I also kind of hate it. Walls will do that to you. There's Ivan. Ivan, being Ivan, is a mellow kind of guy. Takes the good with the bad, only gets angry when he really needs to. When I complain about the walls in the park, he says, "Walls keep the animals in, but they also keep the bad guys out." Of course, gorillas don't have a whole lot of bad guys to deal with. Elephants either. So humans step in to fill the void. Dogs? Sometimes it feels like we have enemies galore. Everyone wants a piece of us. Humans treat us badly. Cars really have it in for us. We even get eaten by coyotes, which is kind of like having your cousin invite you over for dinner and then inform you that you're the main course. Although I'd probably just be the appetizer. Anyway, after those 27 years stuck in the mall, Ivan is one of the glass half full kind of guys when it comes to walls surrounding him. Glad to be with others of his own kind, cared for by smart, loving humans. I'm more of the water bowl of power half empty kind of guy. Every time I leave Ivan and Ruby, I'm painfully aware that I can leave. Ivan's address is Gorilla World. Ruby's is Elephant Odyssey. And me, I guess my address is the same as Julia's and George's and Sarah's. 1249 Hinman Avenue. I mean, of course it is. I've been living there for a whole year now. It is. And yet, sometimes I wake up at night and think, gotta find shelter, gotta find safety, gotta find somewhere to belong. Guess I don't want to get too comfortable. Once I'm in my spot, I don't have to do anything because Ivan and Ruby always know when I'm there. Gorillas and elephants have great snoozes too. And I pride myself on staying extra fragrant. It's a gift. Ivan gets to me first. "Bob!" He knuckle walks up the hill. Knuckle runs, actually. And he looks as glad to see me as I am to see him. It seems like I've known Ivan forever. And yet every single time I see him, I feel kinda odd. He's so powerful, so huge, like this magnificent silver mountain that just happens to be my best buddy. "Hi, Ivan," Julia calls, waving. He cocks his head and makes a soft belch, which is gorilla for "I'm hungry, I'm happy." Maya calls out to Julia from the door to the gorilla indoor space. Maya's a zoologist, which is a hoity-toity way of saying she has a thing for animals. It was Maya and a lot of other good folks who helped get Ivan and the rest of the mall animals moved to better places. Julia unhooks my string and gives me a stern look. "No funny business, you," she said, and then she kisses me on the head. "And stay out of sight." Ivan slides up as close to the stone wall as he can get. "I was worried you wouldn't come today," he said. "Weather and all." "Another hurricane," I said. "It's freaking everybody out." Above me, magnolia branches sway. Leaves rustle and shiver. Even the trees seem uneasy. "What's new?" Ivan asked. He lies back on the grass, wriggling contentedly, scratching an itch, no doubt. Not much. Had a weird dream last night. I paused. You were in it, me and Ruby and Stella too. Ivan gazes at the darkening sky. Stella, he says. Now there was a great friend. Classiest elephant you'll ever hope to meet. The best, I agree. I miss the old gal. We fall silent. All good with you, I ask after a moment. No point in dwelling on sad stuff or bad dreams. Kenyani's getting on my nerves a bit. Ivan, do this. Ivan, do that. But she means well. Kenyani is Ivan's girlfriend, lady friend. I've never been sure what they call it in gorilla. Kenyani doesn't really approve of me. She thinks I'm a bad influence on Ivan. I like to think she's right. Ivan is 400 pounds of pure power. But Kenyani is 400 times scarier. Trust me, I've seen her in a bad mood. I've also seen her teeth make mine look like toothpicks. Ivan and Kenyani don't have kids, but there are a bunch of baby and junior gorillas hanging around. They call him Uncle Ivan, and he puts up with their antics. Ivan's always been a good sport. If I had a gorilla toddler hanging off me, I'd be tempted to use my toothpick teeth. Ivan and Kenyani are a lot like George and Sarah, as far as I can tell. They grumble, they cuddle, they help each other, they tease each other. Sometimes it looks pretty nice. Still and all, when I smell love, I almost always smell worry. Seems like they're tangled together so tightly, they'll never unravel. There's a reason I avoid all the mushy stuff. One big difference I've noticed between the two couples: Ivan and Kenyani enjoy eating bugs off each other. George and Sarah, not so much. Ivan always seems like nothing scares him, not even Kenyani, who scares the heck out of me. On the outside, I suppose that's how I look too. Tiny but tough. But inside, well, sometimes no matter how hard I try, I can't find that guy to save my life. It's like he's cowering in some corner of my heart. I hate it when that happens. I hate that I'm not the guy my friends think I am, the guy the world expects. I keep waiting for things to go bad on me, worrying that my nice, tidy little dog life will blow up in my face. I think George is a worrier too. He gets up in the middle of the night and heads to the kitchen sometimes, his old slippers scuffing on the wooden floors. I always hear him, always join him. When he opens the fridge, the light spills out like maple syrup on a hot cake. Wonderful scents drift my way. Leftover meatloaf, stinky cheese, expired yogurt that someone might as well eat, and it seems like the dog is the safest bet. The smells rain around me, and yeah, my tongue starts hanging out. And I nudge George's PJ'd leg. You can't sleep either, huh? He'll say. Or maybe, I can't tell if you have insomnia or just a very acute sense of smell. Both, actually. I wait. He usually makes himself a PB&J with banana, which is good with me because the crusts are where you really get the fun chew factor going. Now and then, after we eat, we sit on the back porch, and George scratches my ears, especially my right ear. It's my favorite. I understand his worry, I think. George works so hard. His wife was really sick for a long time, and he loves his daughter so much. Sometimes when Julia climbs on the school bus, I'll watch George watching her, All that caring and concern is painful to smell, especially the briny scent of the stray tear he'll flick aside with the back of his hand like sea spray. More than once, George and I have dozed off together. That's the best kind of snooze, if you ask me. Good, warm, safe in someone's arms sleep. Often, when I'm with Ivan, we don't even bother talking. We just look out at his domain, at the green grass and the crazy babies, and the swaggering juveniles and the hard-working females, and we think of nothing and everything. And when you've been through the worst with someone, you appreciate the best. That's why sometimes when he says, "Hey Bob," it's enough for me to say, "Hey Ivan," and then we just listen to the palm trees wrestle and watch the sawgrass sway. Once, when we were still at the mall, I told Ivan how brave I thought he was, the way he puts up with everything that has happened to him, and never stopped being a good guy. Ivan just looked at me, cocked his big old head of his, nodded a bit. "That's not brave, Bob," he finally said. "That's just knowing what I can't change." "I call it brave," I said. "I call it crazy brave." Ivan held a browning banana up to the light, like it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen in his gorilla life. I wondered whether he was going to eat it or draw it. You never knew with Ivan. Seems to me there's lots of ways to be brave, Bob. A tiny mouse named Eek skittered across his cage floor. "Hey, Eek," said Ivan. "Just checking for crumbs," he said nervously, because he always sounded nervous. "Dibs on all leftovers," I reminded her. She looked terrified that I relented. "Over there, behind the tire. Old Carrot Top." "Respect, Bob," she says, scampering off. "Take a small creature like Eek," said Ivan. He scratches his chin with the end of the banana. He did that when he was in a philosophical mood. Maybe brave for a mouse is different than brave for me or brave for you. He looked at me fondly. "You're the bravest dog I know, pal." "I ain't brave." I chewed on my tail, avoiding his gaze. "You are, Bob, untamed and undaunted," said Ivan, and he chomped off a hunk of banana. He offered the rest to me, but I shook my head. I wasn't feeling hungry. Also, it was mostly just peel. That's just my stick, my routine. I mean, I'm sure I'm tough compared to, say, Eek, but that's setting the bar pretty low. "You're too hard on yourself sometimes, Bob." I met his eyes. He has these dark brown, deep-set eyes, really kind ones, eyes that make you want to admit things, confess to your failures. Once when I was little, just a pup, I did something. Ivan waited patiently. Ivan is the king of patience. I felt myself dashing into a dead-end tunnel I couldn't escape. I didn't want to go there, not even with Ivan. "Never mind," I yawned. I do that when I'm anxious. "I'm rambling." "Bob," Ivan said, "you okay?" "You know me, Ivan. I'm always okay, always." I slipped away before he could ask me anything more. Hey, you guys have a fantastic winter break, and I will see you hopefully when we get back in January.